She came to finalize the divorce on a gray morning that felt heavier than winter, and in that single moment, everything Marcus believed about his life collapsed. The courtroom hallway smelled of old paper and regret, and as he lifted his eyes from the folder clenched in his hands, his breath caught painfully in his chest. Standing there was Alina, the woman he once loved enough to build dreams with, her face calmer than he remembered, her posture steady, but her body unmistakably changed. Beneath her coat was a life he had never known existed. She was 7 months pregnant, and the shock froze him where he stood, as if time itself had decided to stop and watch him fall apart. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means more than you know. Marcus had replayed this day in his head 100 times, but none of those imagined versions prepared him for this. The divorce was supposed to be clean, final, and quiet, papers signed, lives separated, wounds sealed shut. For months, he had told himself that this ending was necessary, that love had simply worn out under the weight of misunderstandings and pride. Yet seeing Alina like this cracked open emotions he had buried deep beneath anger and silence. The pregnancy was not just a surprise, it was a mirror forcing him to face how little he truly knew about the woman he once shared a home with. Their marriage had not collapsed in one dramatic explosion but eroded slowly through exhaustion, long work hours, and conversations postponed until they disappeared altogether. Marcus believed providing stability meant sacrificing presence, while Alina needed connection more than comfort. When the distance grew unbearable, neither of them fought hard enough to bridge it. The separation followed, quiet and polite, like two strangers agreeing to forget something precious. Somewhere along the way, life continued without him knowing, and now it stood before him in undeniable form. Alina carried herself with a quiet strength that Marcus had always admired but rarely understood. The months apart had changed her. She had learned to survive disappointment, fear, and loneliness in ways Marcus never had to. When she found out she was pregnant, the world had tilted beneath her feet, but she chose courage over chaos. She rebuilt her life slowly, one day at a time, without bitterness, without demands. The child growing inside her became her reason to wake up, to endure, and to believe that endings could still give birth to something meaningful. Marcus, on the other hand, had been stuck in the same emotional place since the separation, numbing himself with routine and rationalizations. He told himself that walking away was easier than failing again, that starting over required less vulnerability than fixing what was broken. But that illusion shattered the moment he realized that the future he abandoned had continued without his consent. He felt the weight of regret settle heavily on his chest, mixed with a fear he had never known, the fear of being irrelevant to a life that might have been his greatest responsibility. As the legal process moved forward, the silence between them grew louder than any argument they had ever had. Marcus noticed the small details he once ignored, the careful way Alina rested her hands over her belly, the tired strength in her eyes, the patience in her movements. It was impossible not to wonder how many nights she had spent alone, how many fears she had faced without his support. The realization humbled him. For the first time, he questioned whether walking away had truly been strength, or simply avoidance disguised as dignity. The weeks that followed forced Marcus into a reckoning with himself. He began to see that love did not disappear when people failed each other, it waited, bruised and quiet, for accountability. He sought help, not to undo the past, but to understand the men he had become. Slowly, painfully, he learned that being present required courage, not control. He stopped defending his choices and started examining them. And in doing so, something within him softened. Alina noticed the change, not through grand gestures, but through consistency. Marcus respected boundaries, offered support without expectations, and showed up when it mattered. He listened more than he spoke. He learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Trust did not return overnight, but neither of them rushed it. Healing rarely announces itself loudly, it arrives quietly, through effort repeated without guarantee. As the pregnancy neared its final weeks, both of them stood at a crossroads. The divorce papers were still valid, the past still painful, and the future uncertain. But something had undeniably shifted. What once felt like an ending began to resemble an unanswered question. They were no longer the same people who had failed each other before. They were two individuals who had learned, through loss, what truly mattered. Marcus realized that love was not proven through perfection, but through responsibility. Alina realized that forgiveness did not mean forgetting pain, it meant choosing not to let it define the rest of her life. Whether they would walk the same path again was still unknown, but for the first time in a long while, hope felt honest instead of desperate. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who may need them most. In the final days before the child's arrival, Marcus understood that some moments redefine a person forever. Seeing Alina 7 months pregnant on the day of their divorce had not been a punishment, it had been a wake-up call. Life had given him a second chance, not guaranteed, not promised, but possible. And whether that chance led to rebuilding a family or simply becoming a better man, he vowed not to waste it. Just before the ending, we have a special request for you. Please comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you think. When the day finally came and a new life entered the world, it carried with it the quiet power of renewal. Marcus stood humbled, aware that love is not measured by how tightly we hold on, but by how deeply we are willing to grow. Alina looked forward, not bound by the past, but strengthened by it. And in that fragile, beautiful beginning, the story proved that even the most painful endings can open the door to grace, healing, and second chances, if the heart is brave enough to accept them.